Today's topic, what is the 457B and how does it work? We are actually updating our last 457B video because it has been extremely popular. One of our most popular videos. So I guess there's just not a ton of content out there for 457Bs. So what we did is we added some more context to the actual blog post, which I'm now going to record a new video to walk through with all of you again. So we'll add in some more details here. We'll walk through what is the 457B, how do you utilize it, should you be utilizing it, what's the difference between this and my 401k, how about this versus my 403B, what the heck's a non-governmental versus a governmental 457B, what does all of this mean? I just was told I have a 457B. Well, stay tuned. That's all coming up next. First up, what is a 457B? In its most simplest form, a 457B is just another retirement account. Just like your 401k or your 403B, it's just another bucket to invest into. The uniqueness comes in that there's actually two different forms of 457Bs. I always call it the non-government versus the government 457B. And that is actually where most of the research should be done on your side of things. Which one do you have? Because a government 457B, pretty straightforward. Non-government 457B, it can introduce some more moving parts. But on the most simplest, purest form, it's just another retirement bucket for you to save to. You're essentially deferring your compensation for later use. That's the main detail of the 457B. Next up, how do 457Bs work? Well, again, very similar to your 401k, 457, or your 401k, 403B. We're referring to the 457B. So you would set it up through your employer. You would then mark down what percentage or what dollar amount you want to save to in your 457B. The one unique thing with 457Bs is that it's there's no 59.5 penalty. So, for example, with your 401k, 403B, if you pull funds out of it before 59.5, there's a 10% penalty. That does not apply to 457Bs. Now, I sometimes say that's both a blessing and a curse because this is also where with non-government 457Bs, they can push you in a unique tax spot. I'll cover this more in the next section when I go through those, but that flexibility is a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing depending on which side of it you're in. The contribution limits are usually going to be, not usually, they're going to match up exactly to what your 401k or 403b would. So when I'm recording this now, we're pretty much talking for the year 2022. Current contribution limit is $20,500. Now the unique thing is your 457b sits on its own island. That's right, private resort, own island. Meaning that your 401k, 403b, they have their own $20,500 in total, meaning that you can only save a total of $20,500 to either your 401k or your 403b or a combination of the both, but you can't go over $20,500. Again, tax year 2022. If you're watching this in a different year, just see what the current limits are. But then you can save another $20,500 to your 457B. It's on its own separate island. And 457Bs also have some unique rules later down the road where you can save double that amount. We won't get into the exact details of all of that right now, but just know that 457Bs also have some unique rules on you saving more, and even based on kind of years of service and things of that nature. So with that, the 457B is going to function very similar to your 401k, 403B. You'll have a custodian, where the funds are held. You'll pick your own investments. The money will be there. That is how the 457B is working. Next up, types of 457B plans. If I only had to give you one section, it would probably be this section here. We call it government versus non-government 457B. So if you work for state, local government, you're going to have what's called a government 457B. But also for our clients, for who we speak to the most, you can also see these with academic hospitals because they're probably run by the state in some capacity. Not everyone, but some of them will offer a government 457B. Now, a lot of academic hospitals will always have a 457B, but you still need to know, is it government or non-government? Some will be government, some will not be. But here's why this is really important. A government 457B is pretty much a bonus 403B, meaning that you don't have to overthink it. The money is yours. If the hospital goes under, you don't lose your money. Right? These are things you don't think about, but they do happen. There are crazy stories out there. Non-government 457B does not work that way. The money is not yours. That's right. The money is not yours. It's going into an account that has your name on it, but if the hospital goes under, you are likely never going to get that money. And here's why. Creditors have access to it first. That is could be a scary dilemma. Now, I usually say the writing's probably on the wall before then, but not all the time. But keep an eye on that. Understand that is not your money yet in a non-government 457B. The other thing you got to keep an eye on for non-government 457Bs is, what are their withdrawal rules? Do they make you pull everything out next April? Do they make you pull everything out in the next 3 years? You have $100,000 in there and they tell you got to pull everything out by next April. You're a physician, you already have good income. Let's say your household income is already $500,000. You have to pull out another $100,000. It's all fully taxable. Now your income just went up to $600,000. So all of your income is being taxed at a higher rate now. Obviously there's marginal rates in there, but just kind of stick with me on a simple format here. So that is very important. You want to look for withdrawal options that say, hey, you can start this after 70 and a half. You can stretch it out over 5 to 10 years. You're looking for that type of wording in there. And then also, if there's just separation of service. Now, sometimes non-government 457Bs will allow you to roll that plan into another non-government 457B plan. If that's the case, good. But you're hoping on a lot of things to fall into place here. Non-government 457Bs have to go into another non-government 457B, and they have to make sure both plans accept it. They're okay with it. Government 457Bs, simple. It can roll into another 457B, government 457B. You could roll it into an IRA. You might roll it into your next employer's 401k or 403B. It's very versatile. So as you hear me walk through this whole section, I can summarize it like this. Government 457B, just think of it as a bonus retirement account. You don't have to overthink it. Non-government 457B, there's two things that I highly suggest you look out for. One, is the hospital, is your organization financially strong? You don't want them going out of business because you're probably going to lose every dollar in your 457B. Second, what are the withdrawal options? And once you know the details of those two, then you can make an informed decision on how do you save into that 457B. And keep in mind, for a lot of our clients, we'll even say, hey, get started. But as that balance starts to grow, we'll know the options beforehand. But hey, it's only going to be at $20,000 this year. But when it gets to $100,000, maybe we take a deep breath and say, hey, how's the hospital look? Any reasons why you're going to be leaving soon? Because remember, they have those weird separation of service rules. So as it starts to grow, you can really get into it. But for the most part, you need to know those up front. And I actually scratched that. I wouldn't say for the most part. You need to know those things up front before you start saving into it. So 2 types of 457B plans. Understand the difference. Government 457B, green light. Non-government 457B, yellow light. Next up, how do you coordinate your 457B with your other accounts? Well, as I said earlier, 457B already sits on its own island. So in a perfect world, you can max out your 403B, you can max out your 457B, you can also then go do a backdoor Roth IRA, you could save to your HSA, you could save to your taxable account. The 457B can really be coordinated and built in any way, shape, or form. And also, sometimes with our clients, we'll even say, maybe you don't have to max out your 457B. We're so used to max out, but maybe it's just a way for you to get your taxes a little bit lower. Maybe it's just a little bit of an extra savings cushion. But when we look at that long-term plan, it's that delicate balance of finding that happy medium, right? We want to make sure you're going to have a really nice long-term retirement, financial independence, but at the same time, we also want to live today, right? We want to do some cool things, we want to enjoy life, we want a good work-life balance. So sometimes it's just finding that balance on how is it actually going to coordinate in there. But for the most part, your 457B, whether it's government or non-government 457B, will play nicely with all your other investment accounts. I would actually argue it's really the nicest kid on the playground, because not only can it stand on its own, it also allows you to still max out your 401k or 403B. Fantastic. Has no effect on any of your other accounts as well. So your 457B can really coordinate beautifully with the rest of your investments inside of your financial plan. I'm actually, from our blog post into the video, I'm going to consolidate the next two. And this is actually, we added these sections because these are questions that we get quite a bit, whether it's through just kind of our email list, sending us notes, or if it's just our current clients. Is the 457B better than my 401k? Is the 457B better than my 403B? And the answer is it's neither, right? It plays with them. Now, we have not seen this, but I'm sure there's probably weird examples out there where like maybe your 401k has only really good low-cost index funds, but for whatever reason your 457B only had active funds. Again, I've never seen this. I'm just trying to think of like a hypothetical where you might argue like, oh, your 401k or 403B is better. But for the most part, the investment lineups are going to be extremely similar, if not the same, meaning that whatever I put into a 403B, it's likely I can build that same allocation in the 457B. So the 457B is not better or worse than either one. The one thing I would put a little, if I had to nitpick here, I would always lean towards your 401k or 403B first, because that's likely where your match is. You're probably not getting any type of match on your 457B because it's just really it's more or less they label it as deferred compensation. So if you had to pick, if you're really nitpicking here, I would put 401k, 403B as the first bucket you want to fill up because likely there's a match in there, and then look to do your 457B because remember they're on separate islands. So long story short, one is not better than the other. It's just more or less making sure the investment options are the same, and if you are getting a match, which fortunately most of us are, then I would be leaning towards that 401k, 403B first, only to get that free match money, and then once you fill that bucket up, then you could go over to your 457B next. Last section is just kind of the big topic or the big question of should I invest in my 457B? At a high level, I would say yes. Now, it does come down to government versus non-government. Government, again, green light. I don't even think you really have to overthink this. And now or less, it more becomes how does it fit into your financial plan? Do you need to be saving more? Are we trying to get your AGI, your adjusted gross income, lower? Maybe you're on an income-driven payment plan and we're just trying to really drive down your student loan payment. Maybe we're just trying to get you below a certain tax threshold just for an actual tax perspective. Having that government 457B or non-government 457B is just a nice bonus account there. Or maybe we just need it to actually hit our early financial independence, or maybe we have larger spending goals in retirement, so we got to really save now as much as we can. Where on the non-government 457B, it's still that yellow light, right? And the yellow light really just depends on financial stability of the hospital, your organization, and what are the withdrawal rules. Financial stability, very good, and really good withdrawal options down the road. I would then pivot my yellow light to a green light. So when we're asked the question, should I invest in my 457B, we always say it's a very good investment option. Now, again, understanding we need to know your investment lineup, but fortunately, that space continues to get more and more competitive, somewhat because you saw a lot of lawsuits of very high cost funds, but for the most part, you're seeing very good diversified investment options, usually a good mix of index funds in there now. So should I invest in the 457B plan is a yes, but as always with everything in financial planning it depends on your financial plan. Do you need to be saving there? Do you not need to be saving there? What are the pros and cons of saving there? So hopefully today's post gave you enough things to think through, especially on the non-government 457B, but 457Bs are fantastic investment accounts, and they don't get nearly the fame that the 401k and the 403B and the Roth IRA and the IRA and the HSA and FSAs and you name it, any fancy account, any three-letter acronym here, the 457B can stand on its own, and it is a very good account for you to be looking at. And that's it. That's the 457B updated post with more details because you all seem to really enjoy that post. So I wanted to add some more details to it. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you have not already done so, you can click the like button to give us a shout out in this video. But also, if you want to see more videos, subscribe. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can click the bell icon, and then that will tell you every time we post a new video. As always, our goal is to get our videos in front of as many physicians as possible because unfortunately, for whatever reason, no one wanted to teach you about any of this stuff during your very long training. So we will now use our YouTube channel to help you as best as we can to get you through this beautiful financial journey. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next video.